I thought it might be a good time now to give a summary of what we've learned so far. It's going to be a very brief summary, and I'm certainly not going to be able to go into many details, but at least just to review where we stand and what we've done. Over the last several hours, we have been seeing the playback of recorded photographs taken primarily of the satellites, the major satellites, the 5 satellites of Uranus, at the time that we passed by those most closely. I think that I want to run through some of those. I think we'll start out with this one of Ariel. This is a part of a mosaic of one of the brightest of the satellites, and the whole mosaic consisted of this in the upper left and one picture down the lower left, and some of the more interesting things are such views as this, a rather large bright area which is probably associated with a crater, another crater here, bright area, and then moving on with another view of Ariel, the upper right, and some of these canyons through here, down around this area, much of the unusual terrain and quite strange. Another view, the lower right, and this feature right here. It appears that some of these valleys are sunken. There has been internal activity on these moons, and a lot of it, and it's surprising. Move on then to Oberon. This is not anywhere near as close as the one we just saw. And Miranda, this is a somewhat distant shot of Miranda. We will get much closer. An unusual feature we saw there was called this chevron formation, but we'll get a better picture of that as we get in closer to Miranda, because indeed we did get close. This is the one where we saw things down to a kilometer resolution, and structure here in Miranda which is quite amazing. The black dropout across the middle here, we believe, is somewhere in the transmission, and since this is played back from a tape recorder, another playback will recover the information from that section. Here, a curious flow of material down in this direction. That's what it appears to be, but of course it waits further analysis to see what it is. But something's been going on in Miranda. It's a very small moon, 500 kilometers across, and to have this much activity in such a moon is quite different than what we saw, for example, in the moons of Saturn. Another part of it, the mosaic, still another part, again, very curious markings on the surface. And right in the middle, the chevron we saw at a great distance is now this object here. What is it? Well, further analysis may tell, we hope. And then backing off with a wide-angle lens to get the complete picture. And then looking back toward Uranus. And let's now talk a little bit about all the other things we've seen besides photographing the satellites. We have discovered one more small satellite, making 10 in all that have been discovered by the Voyager and its approach, and near miss of, or close approach to the planet Uranus. We've also discovered another ring, so that makes a total of 10 small moons discovered and 10 rings. One discovered by Voyager, the other were known previously. This is a ring picture taken from on the approach to Uranus. And you can see the major, I think this is the Epsilon ring, is a bright one, and then some others inside of it. We also tried another one when we got behind the planet, with the sun shining through the rings toward the Voyager spacecraft, to take a picture then. We expected to see a very bright glimmer because of the very small particles in the ring, which in this backlighting arrangement would tend to glow, just as when you see dust motes in the sunlight shining through a window toward you. You can see lots more dust than you can if you actually look at from the point of view of the sun. Small particles tend to scatter light directly forward, keep it going. Surprisingly enough, we saw very little in that from that viewpoint, which is a bit of a mystery. How come there's so little dust? We've measured the magnetic field now. We were almost to Uranus before we discovered that there was indeed a magnetic field. If it had no magnetic field, that would have been a real problem. But there is. It's about 15% weaker than the Earth's on the surface. The curious thing about it is this. Uranus has its axis pointed pretty much, its pole, south pole, by committee decision, pointed toward the sun. So if the sun's over there, that's where this pole, and it's spinning around like this on that axis. The magnetic field, however, is on a pole at an angle, 55 degrees. So as Uranus spins around on its spin axis, the magnetic field is spinning around like this, which is going to make some very curious effects on the total field.